One Punch Man just reveals Saitama's latest feat, and it is dimension breaking. That's right, with the #1 strongest S-class hero Blast on his last legs against the strongest of God's avatars, Empty Void, only the caped Baldy can be trusted to save the entire human race. But that's not all, as Murata has set up future events and stories with the reveal of Blast's family and his past with them. But to understand how the manga has reached this point where Saitama is once again relied upon, we must first rewind to the aftermath of Void's Dimension Slash. Blast was able to save himself, Sonic and Flashy Flash at the final moment, but that's when he questions if Void is fully healed. That's when he appears behind them in a flash, kickstarting round 2 of their bout. However, something's not quite right. Void reveals that when he absorbed the cosmic power of Garo after his planetary battle with Saitama, he realized that Garo was actually a failed avatar of gods. You see, despite being bestowed with his power, Garo held a dark secret which actually nerfed it. Firstly, we need to remember that Garo actually rejected the hand of God to begin with. He saw through his manipulations, but by slapping away this deity's hands, he accepted a percentage of that power regardless. That's not all though, there's also the fact that he had broken his limiter. Remember, this is the natural cap of your body's abilities and strength placed upon you by God. Dr. Genus in chapter 88 explained that too much power inside one person creates problems. For example, they can become a rampaging, mindless monster, which we've seen happen in the story. Hence why God placed this limiter to try and stop humanity evolving to a point they can't recover from. However, in chapter 92, Psychos explains that to break your limiter, your body has to survive extreme, life-threatening situations repeatedly. Only after enduring this process multiple times can someone experience an explosive surge in power and evolve. This is exactly what happened to Saitama through his grueling training routine, saying, "To train your spirit, never use a heater in winter or air conditioning in the summer. At first it'll feel like it's killing you. You'll want to quit, but I wanted to be a strong hero. So I pushed through every day until I vomited blood. Even when I could barely move or my body felt broken, I did my squats and push-ups. Then after a year, I noticed a change. I was bald, but I was strong." Because of this, Saitama pushed his human limits without any help, refusing to give up, thus breaking his limiters and unlocking his insane evolved strength. The same thing happened to Garo. In chapter 88, whilst fighting against the Royal Ripper and Bug God, he was forced into one deadly situation after another. Each time his body adapted to survive, where eventually Garo transformed into a rampaging monster as if his power exploded. However, in order to stop this monsterification, you must continue to embrace your humanity. This happened with Garo. It's why he was a failed avatar. Furthermore, after facing Saitama and realizing the damage he had done to the likes of Tario, the kind of people he was supposed to be protecting, he abandoned his desire for absolute evil levels of strength and instead became in touch with his human side. Chapter 196 also reaffirms this when Blast and Saitama walk in on one of the experiments to turn monsters back into humans, noticing that their psychological state is the key to understanding the process and reversing it. In chapter 76, Saitama confides in King, admitting how he feels stuck, like he's hit a wall and can no longer grow. Despite being the strongest hero, Saitama feels a sense of emptiness, as if his limitless power has left him without a purpose. But King offers him a valuable perspective, explaining that being a true hero isn't just about being the strongest, it's about understanding who you are and what drives you. The true journey isn't about the power you gain, but rather how much you grow on the inside. Hence why he compliments Genos for growing stronger in the heart, as that is where the true strength lies.
What I'm talking about. This shit means something to me, man.
Void, however, does not understand this yet, because he can now counter Blast's power of darkness, which goes against God's light. On top of that, Void has also remembered the burning hatred he had for Blast, which God's will actually made him forget. Thus, Blast was forced into serious mode. We have never seen him like this before. Remember, in the entire story so far, Blast has never taken damage, but that's about to change. Bringing us onto possibly the best speed feat in the entire One Punch Man story, because Blast asks Flashy Flash to hold his glass glasses, throwing them to him to catch, signaling the beginning of their battle. Even though Void has managed to deal with Blast's Dimension Cannon and Gravity Knuckle, he still has tricks up his sleeve, landing multiple punches. He teleports constantly, not giving Void the chance to transcend into a different dimension, because if that happens, he will become untraceable. However, Void reveals his own tricks only achievable by the leader of the ninja village himself. He twists his entire body around 180 degrees, managing to cut off Blast's arm through the portal before he could land his punch. But bear in mind that in the time it took for this fight to take place, Flash had only just caught the sunglasses, meaning that in his point of view, bro just threw his sunglasses then had his arm chopped off. It's low-key kind of fraudulent behavior, I'm not gonna lie. But this means that things just went from bad to worse for Blast, because now he can't even use his teleportation as he can't put his fists together. This means that with the boring magic trick now useless, they can no longer dodge this dimension slash. They're nothing more than helpless sitting ducks being forced to watch as cities around the world and their citizens are shredded to pieces. In spite of all this, Blast calls Void's bluff. He explains that there's a shifty look in his eyes. If he were the same empty Void he faced off against 15 years ago, then he would have gone straight for Blast's head and killed him. But because he absorbed Garrow's limitless power, God's brainwashing is wearing off, which is kind of facts. Because remember, Void himself in this chapter literally said that he remembers how much he hated Blast now, feeling which God had subdued. Nonetheless, Void is still a hater at the end of the day, and so he slices Blast up all across his body before stabbing him in the chest. He tells the number one hero that he is the one who needs to wake up to reality. Void learned recently how Blast managed to reach his spot in the S-Class, claiming he was always irresponsibly preaching ideals and bringing disaster to those around him, ultimately hitting him with the hard truth. So who have you managed to protect, huh? And well, kind of got a point. Blast has been practically invisible for the past 20 years in his battle with God, where even then, without the help of Saitama, would have failed in the battle with Garrow. He neglected his son, lost his best friend, and more, all kind of for nothing. All I'm saying, Blast, is that the general public is starting to hit you with some fraud allegations. Void even tries to use Blast's son against him, bringing him up, which is when Flash jumps into the fight. Despite Blast's warning, he believes he's doing the right thing. He also questions Void's true intentions as well, because if he knew Blast's weak spot was his son, then why didn't he try and target that weakness from the beginning? After all, that's what they're taught at the Ninja Village. In spite of this, Void slices Flashy up before dodging Sonic's kick by transcending into his own pocket dimension outside of the causality of the universe. They had lost. There was no longer a single being left on this planet that could do anything against this next dimension slash. It was GG. Or at least it should have been. Because when humanity needs him the most, the strongest superhero of them all steps up. The Caped Baldy. That's right, Saitama stopped this slash with just 2 fingers. Forget Aizen, forget Lucifero, this is now the ultimate disrespect. Because stopping a blade is one thing, alright? But stopping one capable of literally cutting through space itself from a separate dimension, yeah, that's a whole different level. However, this isn't something new for Saitama. Stopping a ninja's blade, well, that's actually just a normal Sunday afternoon for him at this point. Saitama might actually have some big beef with these ninjas, to be honest, because he stopped Sonic's sword, stopped Flashy Flashes, and now stopped the big boss of them all, Empty Voids. But that's not all, because when Void goes in for a second attempt, Saitama catches that blade as well. Thankfully, because he'd been to enjoy some curry udon before this with Manako, his brain was working at full capacity. As a result, Saitama puts 2 and 2 together, realizing that this is probably the whack job that tried chopping up the Hero Association earlier. Thus, Saitama pulls on the blades, yanking Void from outside his very own pocket dimension, creating a Looney Tunes-ass crater in the ground. Now again, this is nothing new for the Caped Baldy. In chapter 167, Saitama not only kicked Garrow's hyperspace gates away, but also managed to move on with his bare hands. Of course, he time traveled as well, and furthermore, he also broke into a separate pocket dimension set up by God once already called the Phoenix Phoenix space, which is where, like most of his potential victims, God disguised himself as Phoenix Man to try and turn Child Emperor on his side. So interacting with seemingly impossible objects that manipulate space-time itself and originate from outside of the causality of the universe, again, it's kinda nothing new for Kate Baldy, hence why this was so goddamn easy for him. Bro did all this against Void without even breaking a sweat. My guy didn't even move. The mosquito put up more of a fight. Whereas Blast, I mean, yeah, he ain't looking too good. Now, Saitama was rewarded for his heroics in this instance, as Blast isn't the only one left looking like a fraud incapable of using his main attack anymore, as Saitama now has Void's Dimension Blades. Now, in the webcomic, he ended up giving these to Sonic and Flashy Flash as something similar happened there. This will not only give them a much needed power up as One Punch Man's scaling continues to leave them in the dust, but it also completes their own mini arc of rebuilding the Ninja Village as they will wield their leader's weapons. In spite of this, when Void bursts up out of the ground, he is met by the blades of both Sonic and Flashy Flash. As a result, Void tries to use his jutsu to get out of there, but no luck. Because you see, Blast is actually only secretly being a fraud. What he's actually been doing is big braining it all the entire time, waiting to activate his secret final trump card. Firstly, he creates a portal to his other hand, connecting his fists to activate his teleportation. This is possible because Blast has been transferring blood flow and neural signals between the severed parts of his arms. All of this for a last resort attack. He grabs Void as he's midway through transcending dimensions, aligning with his coordinates. This means that the two would actually then fuse together as their biological structures will be torn apart. This would then effectively kill them both. Thus, Blast leaves it all to Sitch. He will be the final remaining Hero Association member who knows everything about God and the impending destruction of the world. It would also be his responsibility to eventually save either Blast or Void using the experiments to reverse the monstification that will occur. Luckily for Sitch though, he doesn't have to worry about any of that, as Blast and Void can't fuse. This is because the power of light repels him. Remember, Blast's power is the power of darkness. This links back slightly to what Void mentioned to Sonic and Flash in chapter 201, about how those confident in their own abilities can't remain as equals and that a parting of ways is inevitable, which is the case here. Void's power of light and Blast's power of darkness has forced them to part ways even during their fusion process. In spite of this, the brief moments that they were together, their consciousness overlapped, allowing Blast to look into Void's memories. Memories of how God tricked him. Memories of Blast's wife. And so, what does this mean? Did this all happen because Void was jealous of Blast and wanted to smash his wife? I doubt it. Rather, I think it's more likely that Blast's wife is Void's sister. After all, they do look somewhat alike. This also makes sense of why Void would hate Blast so much despite them once being best mates. Think back to when he claimed Blast brings disaster to those around him and how he failed to save anyone. It would make sense for Blast to have indirectly caused the death of his wife, aka Void's sister, because of his work. This connects the story together perfectly, setting up the next arc with the Neo Heroes, as Void will probably make Blue his next target, possibly even trying to use his own hatred for Blast to recruit him and join God. He is Blue's uncle after all, thus he may well be what brings Blast and his son back together again, filling in the empty void between them. Plus, those with the notification bell on will understand that we've theorized on this channel before who the true mastermind of the Neo Heroes is and their possible connections to God. Now, if you want to learn more about what I mean by this, check this video out on your screen right now.